formatting my Kindle.
Damn, loud.
Sorry. Sorry. Alright, a ton of shit happened last time. Do you remember?
Um, I don't remember what happened at the end. I don't think.
So you remember that they went
I just-
to this. They show up at this inn. So at the beginning, Chilean disguises as a woman in the shop,
Right.
and then manages to scream in shock and then confuse them and run away. So he's being chased by
Yeah.
Heaven's Eye and all these monks. And so he ends up at this inn, and he tells the people, "Don't tell them I'm up there." So he goes upstairs.
Right.
All the monks and stuff come in, and they try to get food, and they're like, "Have you seen this cultivator? Have you seen a woman with a child?" And then the people are like, "Yes." And then they go, and it reveals the that one prostitute who was harboring the
Right.
fetus spirit. Then they were like, "Well, have you seen a cultivator, a strong cultivator?" And then they were like, "Yes." And then they take him to this other room, and Fu Yao is there, and
Right.
he's like throwing talismans at them to like get them to go the fuck away and leave him alone. And he's chasing the prostitute in the fetus spirit. Then, um, I forget what even happens, but it's Chi-Rong's place, and then Shilian's like, "Where's Gaza?" And then he finds Gaza in a closet, and he has a fever. And then he clashes with Heaven's Eye and Fuyao and the fetus spirit. And then the building collapses. Um, and Fuyao comes out and is like all crazy. He's like sees Shilian and Hua Chung, and he's like, "What are you guys doing here?" And then Shilian gets a call from Feng Xin in their private communication array from hundreds of years ago. And Feng Xin says that Mu Qing
Right.
is under arrest, and because Mu Qing has a bite mark on his arm, and it matches the teeth of the fetus spirit. And so they think that he used like dead babies to cast some spell to help him get into heaven. So he's being investigated. And apparently he ran away. Um,
Okay.
so it's implied that Fu Yao might be Mu Qing.
Okay. He's on a abortion kick.
Yeah. Alright. The ending. Where do I start on the ending here? Alright, the ending. I'll read the last 2 pages. "And how did Mu Qing explain this?" Shilian asked, brow furrowed in contemplation. "He admitted that he'd seen the fetus spirit before," Feng Xin said. "But he doesn't admit to being the perpetrator. He says that he saved the fetus spirit out of benevolence, and it bit him in the process. He might as well not have tried to explain anything with a confession like that." That was quite true. As far as everyone else was concerned, Mu Qing would never do anything of the sort. He was hardly considered the type to help another out of kindness of his heart, protect and cherish children, or perform anonymous good deeds. Mu Qing had always been a loner. He never showed any kindness that wasn't strictly required of him, and didn't have any intimate friends in the heavens. Now that something like this had happened, no one would believe him, even if he tried to argue, and naturally there would be no one to speak on his behalf. This was probably why he chose to run away and investigate the truth himself. "In any case, things are still out of control up here, Your Highness," Feng Xin said. "Where are you right now? The Heavenly Emperor said the gathering of ghosts probably can't be stopped at this point. Hurry back to join the emergency assembly." "I'm currently—" Shilian started. Before he could continue, Fu Yao's cold voice sounded from behind him. "Who are you talking to?" Hold on, I dropped my glasses.
Your glasses. How the fuck do you core an apple? This shit's difficult.
Oh, we have an apple core.
I don't have those.
Yeah, you probably just cut it into slices, man. Okay. Chapter
What the fuck do you...
75. Sharp-tongued with pointed teeth, winds devoured and arrow shredded. Chilean heaved a sigh and turned around. Alas, I would like to talk to someone if I could, but I can't get a word through right now that the spiritual communication array of the upper court is in shambles, and I don't know any heavenly official's verbal password. Fuyao, do you have anyone's password information? Just so I can send news back and let them know I'm here and request some assistance. He looked at ease and natural, and the overall effect was extremely persuasive. The gloomy cloud shrouding Fuyao's face disappeared. I don't, he said dismissively. The heavens are a mess right now. Everyone's busy. Take care of things on your own. Just then, Hua Cheng spoke up. Guga, this child hasn't eaten in 2 days, and he's burning up. Shilian walked over to check, and sure enough, Guza's forehead was so hot an egg could be fried on it. He immediately yanked Qirong up and demanded, How on earth have you been caring for him? Qirong's face was covered in blood. It's not like this ancestor is his real dad, he spat. It's already incredibly compassionate that I haven't eaten him. Mark me down for merits, quick! That's only because he wouldn't taste good while feverish, isn't it? Shilian commented. Longchang hesitated for a moment before speaking up. Is that child sick? Why don't I take a look? She was black and blue from the collapsing beams of the dilapidated cottage, but she felt sorry for the child and crawled over. She cradled Guza in her arms and placed her palm over his head, using her body's ghostly chill to cool his fever. Fuya walked over with the fetus spirit in hand, squashed and tied into a ball with a talisman. Time to go. Longchang obviously didn't want to leave, but her son was in his hands, so she was helpless. Shilian spoke up. Wait, don't leave yet. Fuyao, are you able to communicate with your general right now? Fuyao looked at him. What do you want? Shilian chewed on his words. Actually... Before he fully said the word, his hand darted out as fast as lightning. He restrained Fuyao's arm behind his back, locking him in an unbreakable grip before he continued. Actually, I already know he's in trouble. Fuyao had been careless and had allowed himself to be caught, and he was as shocked as he was furious. You sly! No, I caught you by my strength alone. You're welcome to try ambushing me in the same way and seeing if you can hold me down. Hua Cheng clapped politely. I agree. Fuyao's eyes were about to roll from sheer anger. Then why don't you let me go, so I can try, huh? Shilian straightened his expression. Next time, if you get a chance. But right now, we've got more important things to worry about. Fuyao, will you help me urge your general to return to the upper court? Return? Fuyao forcibly suppressed his anger and hissed out a reply. That's easy for you to say. If you were the one stuck in this situation, would you go back? What would you say if others urged you to return? Would you return only to be wronged and wait for an equally wrongful conviction? Would you go back and wait for death? Don't get riled up. I'm being serious, Shilian said. I'm not being sarcastic. Your general and I are different. His situation isn't so serious that it's unsalvageable. The real issue was him running away. That was the worst possible reaction. If you can manage to contact him, tell him I can help him investigate. Fuya was stunned. You help him investigate? Yeah, I've done a lot of investigations, so I'm fairly experienced. More experienced than he is, anyway, Shilian said. Your Highness, need I remind you, since you returned to the heavens, how many heavenly officials have you investigated? Fuya said. And how many of those heavenly officials have survived those investigations? Shilian softly cleared his throat. That's different. The problem doesn't lie with me here. If he really didn't commit a crime, I can prove his innocence. Fuyao puffed out an exasperated laugh, and cut him off. That's enough. It's not like no one knows of the grudge between you two. Help him investigate. Would he even have the chance to turn this around if you did? If If you want to use this chance to drag him down and mock him, just say so outright instead of being fake. Hua Chung's face
Oh,
turned dark when he
okay.
heard this. He smiled soon after. Never mind, Guga. This guy doesn't know how to recognize goodness when he sees it. Why waste your breath? Some people are simply born ungrateful. Their wretched, selfless minds are fundamentally
Whoa.
incapable of recognizing an honest
Whoa.
man's integrity and heart. Who knows? After investigating, you might uncover that he really did commit the crime. He doesn't trust you, and I don't
Whoa.
have the time to care about his issues. Let him struggle and
Oh,
figure things
everyone
out for
relax.
himself. Fuyao eyed him and taunted. Kid? Hua Chung turned his respects and mocked back. Junior official? Fuyao's face dropped slightly. Shulian tightened his hold. Well, these two are completely different matters. Personal affairs and business shouldn't mix, he said gently. It's one thing if there was a grudge between us, but whether he committed a crime is another matter entirely. Someone like Mu Qing, even though he's petty, narrow-minded, overly sensitive, paranoid, has a bad personality, is prone to fixating on the little things, never says anything
Oh
pleasant,
my
likes to nag, is
god.
always offending others, and has garnered a lot of dislike on that account, has
Oh,
no friends, or remembers small, unimportant offenses for far too long. Shulian went on with a straight face, all in a single breath. He concluded with, I've known him since we were young. He's still got principles.
that's fucked up.
He might spit in the cup of someone he doesn't like, but he would never poison the water, Shulian continued. Really? That's still gross, though, Hua Chung commented indifferently. Veins were popping on Fuya's forehead. No! He would never spit either! Laxatives, then, Shulian said. Fuyao seemed as though he was holding something back as he gritted out a response. You? Must you describe him that way? Are you speaking for him or against him? Sorry,
Wesker, stop.
I just couldn't think of any better examples at the moment, Shulian apologized. Fuyao tried struggling, but he couldn't get out of Shulian's hold. Were you just snitching to someone in the upper court? He demanded in alarm. Not yet. I was just chatting. Don't worry. I won't hurt your general, Shulian replied in a heartfelt tone. If he really doesn't want to go back, then why not
Sure.
join me? We can work together. That way there's a witness for anything he does. He won't be able to clear himself otherwise, and things will only get worse. Just then, there was a roar of crude laughter from behind them. Qirong had been staring at Lan Chang's face and suddenly lost his mind. I wondered who this was. You! Aren't you my lady Jian Lang? Lang Chang was holding Geza in her arms to cool his temperature, but when she heard Qirong, she shuddered and her eyes widened. Who are you? How do you also... Qirong snickered. How do I know? Please! You almost wound up having to call me your little cousin. What, did everyone from the past turn into a ghost? I've been fucking around all over the place, and all I see are familiar faces. This world is so small and lively. Shulian frowned. Qirong, have you gone mad again? Who's Jian Lang? Cousin Crown Prince. Are you blind or are you just playing dumb? Qirong taunted. Look closely at who this is. It's the #1 eligible maiden of our Shenle, the young Lady Jian Lang.
Bro.
Her family was full of politicians and merchants, indescribably grand and glorious. Her looks were only so-so, but her name was always on the list every time there was a Shenle beauty appraisal. She was so proud that her eyes grew on top of her head. She saw and cared for no one. She almost entered the harem to be elected as your consort. What? Shulian's eyes flew to Lang Chang's face. Back then, the king and queen did indeed intend to select a consort for him. They summoned a number of carefully selected, exquisitely beautiful girls to the palace for a banquet to let him see if there was anyone in particular that he might fancy. However, young Shulian had his heart wholly focused on cultivation, and he left the banquet after making only a single round of the room. He never even bothered to remember the faces or names of those girls, so he could recall nothing of Lan Chang. Lan Chang glanced at Fuyao, but Fuyao only humphed. My general mentioned nothing of this. This woman is a surviving citizen of Shenle, so she must have seen you at some point in the past. Shulian looked at Hua Chung, who didn't appear surprised. He probably hadn't only just learned of this. He then turned to Longcheng and mumbled, "Were you really?" However, Longcheng hurriedly covered her ears. "Don't say it! Don't say it out loud! Don't use that name to address me! I changed my name a long time ago." Shilian was taken aback at first, but he soon dropped his arm and sighed. The daughter of a noble family from bygone years was now a prostitute in the ghost realm. She probably changed her name because she was afraid of bringing shame to her dead family, and she didn't want to admit that the woman she was now was still that same girl. This woman was once his devotee, one of his people. How could he not sigh? Just then he felt warmth wrap around his hand. When he looked down, it was Hua Cheng. He didn't look at him, but his hand was clasped around Shilian's. He was currently in the form of a child, and his body temperature was as cool as ever, but he felt warmth when that small, cool hand held his own. Qirong didn't possess any such sympathies, and clicked his tongue. Who would have thought that Lady Jianlang, previously so out of reach, would turn into such an old, ugly hag? I never thought you were all that beautiful, and now, well, my eyes were certainly sharp back then. You really don't look like anything amazing. I might as well ask this question too. Who's the dad of the mutt you gave birth to? His words were extremely crass, and Jianlong's face grew pale. Could it be Cousin Crown Prince? Qirong theorized. No. That cousin of mine probably can't even get it up. That's why he's always pretended to be so chaste, and had no mind for women. What a faker! How could he sire a son? Oh, could I forget? After Shenle fell, wasn't my lady sold to that kind of place? It must be the seat of some Yong'an plebe. Shilian couldn't stand this anymore. He was about to make him shut up, but Jianlang exploded faster than he did, and gave Qirong a resounding slap to the face. What garbage are you spewing? Qirong glared as his nose bled heavily from her strike. You're nothing more than a fierce or a malice. How dare a nobody like you hit me? Oh, it's Qirong. You're nothing more than a fierce or a malice. How dare a nobody like you hit me? Me, who's an almost supreme. Jianlang spat on his face, then smacked him a couple times more after seizing him by the neck. What's a shitty almost supreme? You sure know how to talk yourself up. Who do you think you are? You seriously think you're worthy to be considered equal to the other three Supremes? Is there anything you're good at aside from having such thick skin? Of course, I dare hit you. Her words stabbed Qirong where it hurt. Qirong grew frustrated and began to yell, spittle flying everywhere. Foul wench! Let go with your chicken claws! This ancestor thinks you're dirty! Bleh, bleh, bleh. The two began to tussle, but it was a very one-sided fight. Jianlang was free to throttle Qirong at will, as he was bound by Roye and couldn't move a muscle. Shilian! He howled. How come you won't stop the fight? Where's your saintly heart? Shilian kept his unbreakable hold on Fuyao with a single hand, and had his head lowered to talk to Hua Cheng. He paid no mind to Qirong's shrieks. Jianlang kicked at Qirong, and her eyes flashing red. Even if I've been wasted on plebs, I don't want a worm like you touching a single one of my fingers, she spat angrily. Nobody wants you, you despicable creature. Trash. Think you're good enough to look down on others? Who are you to turn your nose up at me? Qirong was livid. Nobody wants me? Trash? Does a rotted hussy like you have the right to call me that? Who else but a plebe would appreciate looks like yours? Wait, put down that boulder! As they brawled, a crash of thunder rumbled from the skies. Everyone looked up at the same time. Didn't you say you didn't snitch and were only chatting? Fu Yao demanded. Hua Cheng frowned slightly, then humped. Showing up uninvited. A crackle of lightning exploded in the night sky, and everyone shielded their eyes from the sudden flash. When they blinked their eyes open, a tall, black-clad heavenly official with a longbow strapped to his back was approaching them in long strides. Your Highness! Shilian dropped his sleeve and serendipitously pushed Hua Cheng behind him. Feng Xin, why have you come? Feng Xin quickly walked over to him. You suddenly stopped responding, so I asked around and traced your location by following the ripples of spiritual energy. Then he knitted his brows. What's going on here? What a mess. Did you run into something? Shilian was about to answer when Feng Xin noticed that he had Fu Yao seized in his grip, and Hua Cheng standing behind him. It was a picture completely outside his imagination, and he seemed not to know which of the two would surprise him more. What? Finally he settled on pointing at Hua Cheng. What's with this child? Shilian laughed dryly. Cute, right? Function glared as he observed Hua Cheng. His expression didn't match Shilian's comment in the least. Cute? He sounded doubtful. Why do I think he looks a lot like... Like my son, right? Shilian easily replied. Function was shocked. When did you have a son? Shilian smiled. I haven't had one yet. I haven't had one yet. I'm just saying that
What?
if I do have a son, he'll surely be just as cute, right? Hua Cheng held Shilian's hand and smiled. Right. Dot dot dot, said Function.
No.
Dot dot
What?
dot, said Fu Yao.
What the fuck?
Huh? Miss Lanchong, don't run! Shilian called. Function whipped around and saw a woman's shadow leap away from Qirong and start wildly dashing away. Without a moment of hesitation, he aimed an arrow and locked on to her legs. Perhaps because it sensed its mother was in danger, the fetus spirit in Fu Yao's hands, still bound into a ball by yellow talismans, started quivering. It then burst out of its chains and shrieked as it lunged at Feng Xin. Jianlang seemed like she'd just bolted due to panic. Only when she heard the fetus spirit screeching did she remember that her son was still in another's clutches. She whirled around and cried, So! This was the first time, I think that's how you pronounce that. This was the first time Shilian had heard the fetus spirit's name, so it was called So. Feng Xin changed his intended target and shot at the snow-white fetus spirit. There was a sudden loud crunch, and the fetus spirit flipped into the air a few times before hopping into a nearby tree. It had snapped the arrow between its teeth, and everyone finally had the chance to see its appearance clearly. It could hardly be considered a human fetus. It more resembled a diminutive, deformed monster. Its skin was blanched, so starkly white it was like it had been coated in a layer of powder. Its eyes were abnormally large and shone with a peculiar light. Atop its head were sprouted a few sparse yellowing strands of hair. 2 rows of razor-sharp fangs gnawed at Function's arrow. When it noticed him looking its way, it rapidly reduced the arrow to splinters, then spat out the shimmering arrowhead to nail it into the ground next to Function's boots. A long, thin, dark red, snake-like tongue slithered out of its mouth, as if it was taunting him. Without another word, Function reached for a new arrow and locked on to the creature. The fetus spirit crawled up and down the tree like a lizard, exceedingly agile. No wonder Fu Yao had trouble catching it. Don't fight him! Run! Jianlang cried anxiously. Only a blood parent could love such a disgusting, horrifying monster. Function locked on, loosed his bowstring, and let an arrow fly. One of the fetus spirit's little legs was pierced through, and it shrieked, unable to crawl around any longer. Jianlang dashed back over, hand extended to yank out the arrow, but her level of power was too low, and when she touched the fletching, she was hurled away by the rebound, trailing sparks. She stumbled back a few steps, but soon flung herself forward again, relentlessly attempting to remove the arrow, and provoking splashes of sparks as she did. Function put away his bow and approached. All right, time to go back. Don't add any more work to our pile. Jianlang had just been thrown back again, and she shuddered when she heard his voice. She stopped moving and quickly turned away. However, Function pulled her back around to face him. Jianlang, he repeated. Shilian could sense trouble and asked puzzled, What's going on? Jianlang kept her head down and mumbled vaguely, You've got the wrong person. What are you talking about? How could I mistake you for anyone else? Function exclaimed. You look very different now, but I still would not. But the words got stuck in his throat, because he really hadn't recognized her when Jianlan was Lanchang, caked in heavy makeup and done up like a harlot. It couldn't be helped. Function still looked exactly the same as he did once upon a time, but Jianlan's transformation was truly too great. Her looks, makeup, manners, speech, class, even if her own parents stood before her, they might not recognize their precious daughter. Function was astonished. It's you. It really is you. It has to be you. I thought you had gotten married and lived well. How did you become like this?
Oh no.
What?
My fucking
You're fucking?
my fire alarm.
Oh, I can't hear it over your thing. Get that shit turned off.
It shut off.
Oh, okay.
Opened a window. I forgot to open a window. Where even is it? Oh,
It's literally right above you. I can see it. Wow.
you remember when I smashed my chandelier?
No.
I do.
Okay. I didn't even know you had a chandelier.
Yeah, I don't anymore.
Did you like punch it? What the fuck what happened?
I was taking off my hoodie. I was literally
That's
on a
really
call. I
funny.
was taking off my. It was literally
You're
like
not even
right here. Like
tall.
it was
Yeah, you're
this
not
low.
even tall. You're
It was
so
this
tiny.
low,
That's
and
crazy.
I was taking off my hoodie, and I knocked it, and it just because it was like
Did you have to tell your landlord?
resting. I said I said it fell one day. Like I came
That's
home and it
funny.
was just on the ground. And they installed this one that's like close to the ceiling. So
Wow, it'll never happen again.
no.
Alright, Function is
Anyways,
recognizing this woman.
yes.
We don't know who the father of this baby is. Alright.
Uh-huh.
Function was astonished. It's you. It really is you. It has to be you. I thought you had gotten married and lived well. How did you become like this? At that question, Jianlong suddenly turned around and shoved him, cussing. You motherfucker! Function was forced back a few steps with her shove and couldn't reply. Jianlong continued aggressively shoving at his chest while she screamed. I already said that I'm not that hag. Do you not understand human words? Is your head totally empty? What the hell was that? A triple attack of you, it's really you? Can't you pretend not to know me? Can't you pretend not to recognize me? Oh my lord, please, I beg you, leave me some dignity, okay? All right? Her behavior made her look no different from a shrew on the streets. This was probably too different from the Jianlong that Jianlong in Function's memories, so he simply stared at her dumbly, unable to speak. Shilian was the same. Qirong was the most delighted of the bunch, rolling on the ground as he laughed. Oh my fucking god! Cousin Crown Prince, do you see what's happening? You got cucked by your most loyal dog! Jianlong violently stomped on Qirong a few times. Dog, dog, you're the most like a dog. Strictly
Oh
speaking,
my
while
god.
Jianlong had once carried the heavy hopes of her family on her shoulders, she had never formally entered the harem, and was never made a consort. So while Qirong's schadenfreude made no sense, Shilian still didn't know what to say. He had never imagined that Function, who wouldn't even speak to a woman if he could help it, would actually. The fetus spirit snapped the arrow that was nailing it down with a crunch of its jaws, and it lunged at Function once more. In a moment of carelessness, Function allowed it to sink its teeth deep into his right arm. Blood oozed non-stop from the wound. Function's dominant hand was his right, but an injury to that hand was nothing to a martial god. Function had moved to strike with his left when Jianlong cried out, Don't hit him! Function's hand abruptly stopped in midair, and a terrifying thought was born. It wasn't just him. Everyone present realized it at once. Function allowed the fetus spirit to gnaw at his arm like a man-eating fish as he looked at Jianlong. Is this? We have a picture of the fucked up fetus spirit.
What is this fucking Murray?
I know,
Or
right? You
Maury?
are the father. Hold on, let me get this image to you. I'm not a big fan
Hey,
of
give
the
me a
long hair
second.
function that they have in the English books. Doesn't look like my man's to me.
Oh.
Fetus spirit's fucked up looking though.
Dude, it's just eat in the butt.
Just hitting him. He's about to fucking spank his son.
Look at his butt.
Yeah.
He's about to spank his son.
Alright. Oh, that's the end of the chapter.
Oh wow, that was crazy.
I know. And so
He's a
why does
fucking
mooching have a
baby
mark
daddy.
from this fucking baby that's functions? Hmm? Hmm? He said that he was helping out of the goodness of his heart. What did he do? What did he do for his
Brother.
boyfriend? Brother.
Wow.
Wow. Is your food ready?
Yeah, I have to. I feel like I'm not gonna enjoy this. I
Why?
feel like there's too much um chaos.
The next chapter's long, so we're not going to do that right now.